Hello, everyone. So, happy to be here today. I think Jump 19 is one of the most impactful releases I've ever been a part of, and I'm excited to be here today to talk about three of the most impactful new capabilities that are going to be coming out in Jump Pro 19. So, the first one is a new platform called causal treatment that allows us to prove causality from observational data. Next, I will cover baseline correction and parametric peak modeling. These are capabilities in the Functional Data Explorer platform, and they make it possible to extract important information from spectral data used in chemical and pharmaceutical product purification procedures, such as chromatograms. And this information these tools help us recover information that would otherwise be lost or corrupted. And then I will close with an introduction to the new Bayesian optimization platform, which is a very easy-to-use, flexible framework for product and process optimization. So going into the first platform, the causal treatment platform. So just kind of step back and remember one of the first things that everyone learns in statistics is that correlation is not causation. So for example, look at this scatter plot of age by height from the classic big class data set. So we can do a multiple regression, including some other variables that we want to control for. Height as an input variable is highly significant, but everybody knows that increasing height does not increase your age. So this is a significant correlation between height and age that is certainly not height causing age. Now, JMP is already heavily used for making causal statements from data. That's what design of experiments is all about. Now, the causal approach in JMP DOE implicitly makes a strong assumption that, as George Box, the founder of industrial design of experiments, puts it, to find out what happens when you change something, it is necessary to change it. Factors explicitly need to be set and changed, taking measurements before and after to determine if one variable causes changes in another. But there are many questions that can't be answered in this way, especially when the data are observational in nature. We can't poison people with toxins to see what happens. We can't always tell if a new drug caused a particular side effect in already ill patients, or if education reform started 10 years ago impacted people's economic outcomes, or if a promotional campaign caused someone to buy your product. But we've come a long way since George Box's day, and rigorous methods have been developed that tease causality from observational data. We've put some of the best and most robust methods into the new causal treatment platform in JMP Pro. You declare your causal treatment variable and the response you are studying, and like any fit model platform, you declare a model for that response, but also for the treatment variable. The treatment model creates what are called propensity scores that are used to adjust the response model to make it capable of rigorously testing causal claims. So here's a screenshot to launch the causal treatment platform from an observational data set we're going to use to demonstrate if a treatment has an impact on systolic blood pressure after adjusting for other possibly confounding variables. There's a lot of machinery in the background, but your causally adjusted inference is front and center when you launch the platform. In this case, it's shown that the treatment intervention causally lowers patients' it causally lowers the patient's systolic blood pressure after adjusting for possibly confounding other variables like family history and whether the patient has insurance coverage. Now, we have to be careful when we make causal claims because strong conclusions can require strong assumptions. There are many tools available in the platform to check the validity of your claims, though. So next, I'll demonstrate the baseline correction and parametric peak modeling capabilities that have been introduced in the Functional Data Explorer. So in the Functional Data Explorer, we've made strides to make it more useful for applications within analytical chemistry and chromatography with the addition of baseline correction methods like SNP and asymmetrically reweighted least squares, as well as some parametric peak modeling techniques. We want to extract the area under the curve for each peak, which measures the amount of each chemical component in the samples, and the peak resolutions, which measure how well each component has been separated by the purification procedure. To do this, we have to clean up the data using the baseline correction first, and then we extract the resolutions using a model that allows us to isolate peaks that are poorly separated and would otherwise be impossible to calculate the resolution metrics for. So here's a brief example to illustrate. This is data from a designed experiment, a definitive screening design with a chromatographic response. The goal for this project was to design a buffer to purify a pharmaceutical product, removing impurities before it is placed into needles or an injectable delivery mechanism. We want to estimate the areas under the curve for each peak, which measures the relative amount of each of the components in a solution. The areas under the curve and peak resolutions are what we want to extract from this data, but we need a few steps to attain them first. So we start off by removing the baseline using the new automated baseline correction tool. So we go in to the little sub-platform for that, and we apply the SNP baseline correction method. That's what we're going to use here, but as I mentioned, there's the asymmetrically weighted least squares approach, as well as the ability to load a predetermined baseline for the curves as well. So it's removed the baselines. So it's done a good job with that. And then we can save the corrected spectra with that baseline taken out and then analyze the results from there. So we started here and ended up here. So you can visually see that the areas under the curve would have been kind of corrupted had we not taken this, this baseline out. So next we go into the peak finding tool and model the peaks to extract the areas under the curve and the resolution metrics. So we select parametric peak modeling and then choose a Gaussian peak shape to model these. So the Gaussian multi-peak model is fit to the peaks automatically, and we can use overlay graphs of the model and observed values to determine if the model agrees with the data. In the plots above, we see perfect alignment of the model and the data. So in this case, the parametric peak model worked perfectly, but there's also tools for fixing the model when it doesn't get things right at first. With that done, we just go to the summaries and save them out for the next stage of the analysis, which would be taking the areas under the curve and these peak resolutions and loading them into the generalized regression platform for modeling. So now I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this third topic, Bayesian optimization. This has really been a very exciting new capability where there's just an incredible amount of interest out there already for this new capability. So to introduce the idea of it, I'm going to review how tens or possibly hundreds of thousands of scientists and engineers use JMP to solve problem and process design problems in industry. So we collect some data from a designed experiment. Because of the constraints of statistical analysis using least squares, it can take a lot of time and dozens of experimental runs to get enough data to be able to fit these models. But once we have those models, once we have all the data, we model the responses each individually, and then the last thing we do once we are satisfied with the models is we save formulas out to the profiler to suggest and use it to suggest values of the input variables that optimize our responses. So the traditional DOE approach is what we use in JMP for this. The DOE platform will suggest a designed experiment with factor settings for all the runs chosen at the beginning so that we can't really learn from the responses as we go. Even if we use JMP's design augmentation capability, even that also ignores the responses and the goals entirely. Wouldn't it be faster and easier and more flexible if we could use the profiler at the beginning, when we have only a handful of observations, as a machine learning recommender system for industrial innovation that iteratively identifies small batches of combinations of inputs to try next in a sequence as we learn from the responses to directly solve for the settings that will meet our goals. And that's exactly what the new Bayesian optimization platform does. So there's a lot of advantages to the approach that we've put together, but to sum it up, the platform offers flexibility, efficiency, and simplicity. So the platform is flexible in that it allows you to work the way you want to, in a way that respects your desire to learn in a sequence of steps that reflect your production process, allowing you to incorporate ad hoc proposals easily, while also providing straightforward ways to change the ranges of the input variables and handle constraints like mixture factors and the need to only change one or two factor at a time. By starting small, or by beginning with historical data pulled from a data repository and then working iteratively with small batch sizes as we learn from our responses, we're able to meet our goals much more efficiently. And finally, the platform is very simple and easy to use. If you can use the profiler, then you already know all you need to get started with the Bayesian optimization platform. There are a lot of statistical concepts that are not needed within this framework that are absolutely essential for most statistical analysis. So the initial training needed for new users with JMP to get started is a lot less than the methods that you already know. Concepts like p-values, interaction effects, variance inflation factors are all not needed because those are all concepts needed to demonstrate that a scientific hypothesis is true or untrue. The evidence needed to establish scientific truth requires much more rigor than the evidence needed to search for an improved solution. While we were creating the platform, we used a simple procedure to determine what concepts were to be put in the new platform and which ones were better left in the other more traditional ones. The principle we used to make decisions about what we put into the platform and what we left out is statistical analysis is about proving things, and Bayesian optimization is about improving things. The concepts required only for improving things were left out to make the platform much more approachable to users. We did, however, have to invent a lot of new methodology to take the Bayesian optimization that you can learn about from research papers and on the internet and adapt it to solving real-world physical problems. So if you look up Bayesian optimization on the Wikipedia, you will learn that it's about maximizing a single continuous response with continuous input variables, usually by modeling the data with a Gaussian process model. And this version of Bayesian optimization generally recommends just one run at a time. I call this ordinary version of Bayesian optimization basic Bayesian optimization. But when we asked our customers what they were hoping for in the new JMP platform, they wanted it to handle a lot of situations that are outside the basic Bayesian optimization framework. The most important things JMP users wanted was handling of physical data that had random error in the responses. They wanted to be able to do batch augmentation of more than one run at a time. And the most difficult request was the handling of multiple responses. Those are all part of what I consider exotic Bayesian optimization. And basically every example I've ever seen from a JMP user wanting to apply Bayesian optimization has been exotic in multiple ways. To handle all these exotic problems, we looked at how people use the profiler at the last step in a data analysis project. The profiler uses desirability functions to handle multiple responses and different kinds of goals like minimizing, maximizing, and matching targets, and is able to optimize models with different kinds of constraints and disallowed combinations of factor settings. By building the platform directly from the profiler, we got all of its generality in these ways essentially for free. So to introduce the platform, I'll use a simple example using a simulated version of the familiar tire tread sample data set. The original data were collected to find an optimal rubber formulation of 3 ingredients: silica, silane, and sulfur for use in tire production. We want to maximize, we want to maximize the, oh, I lost my laser pointer. We want to maximize the abrasion response while matching a target on the elong response. The original data had 21 runs, but here I simulated a new version of it with just 5 runs from a Latin hypercube space filling design for demonstrating the new platform. Overall, the platform uses all the data, the responses, as well as the input variables. It fits Gaussian process models to all of the responses and combines those model predictions, their uncertainty measures, as well as the project goals as described by the desirability functions, and combines them all to determine the combination of recommendations that you should try next. So we did this by combining the model means and variances with the desirability functions to calculate an exact mean and variance of the desirability function. This transforms the multiple response Bayesian optimization problem back into a single response Bayesian optimization problem that's solvable by the basic Bayesian optimization framework. This approach tremendously simplifies the multiple response problem and made all of the tools used by the profiler available for determining new runs or batches. So now I'm going to show you how easy this is using the auto mode mode of the platform. When I launched the platform, I told it to give me a batch size of size 2. And now that we're in the platform, we see at the top that we have a model summary tab. This organizes results for all the responses all into one place. We see at the top that one of the models isn't fitting well. It has a negative R² value. Below that, we have a run chart of the desirabilities of the observed response values. We see the first 4 runs have a desirability near 0, but the last run is doing slightly better. Over the course of the next couple iterations, we will see that the values are trending upward, marking our problem-solving progress. At the bottom, we see the actual by predicted plots for both responses, and I overlaid the specification ranges on them so we can track our progress on the abrasion and elong responses individually. From there, we go to the model summary. We go to the batch selection tab. Because at least one of the models was fitting poorly, it's presented us with 2 space filling runs, which are the best for improving model fit. We don't want to use inaccurate models to determine where to look next. Once the models fit well, it will use the models to select the runs, but for now we're using space filling design type approaches to set the models up for success at the next iteration. I click Make Table, and the runs get appended to the data table for you. So now we've got the runs, and I've gone back into the platform, and we see on the left that the new runs have been added, or on the right. The responses will initially be missing. You have to go collect the responses for the runs and then add them yourself. Note that we have a column that indicates what iteration we are on, and the reason the platform recommended the runs is also recorded there for you. We see that the models fit better. Each R² value is higher than the lower threshold of 0.25, and things just overall look better. The 0.25 threshold is the criterion the platform uses to decide if it is safe to use the models. 0.25 may sound low, but we only need the model to point in a useful direction. We don't need it to fit all the training observations well. So it's a different concept than machine learning. We're also happy to see that the new response values are more desirable. So we would now go to the batch selection tab, click Make Table, and obtain the recommendation for the next iteration's batch. When we see that the new batches runs have been added in the platform, the reason added has changed to expected improvement and max desirability standard deviation. Expected improvement is a basic Bayesian optimization run selection criteria that trades off optimization versus searching in unknown regions of the factor space. The other run was chosen to add the most information about the desirability function we're maximizing. It's kind of like the d-optimality criterion in JMP's custom designer, only here it is for desirability functions based on Gaussian process models. We can see that one of the new runs is performing better than any of the other runs seen so far, and we go on to the next iteration. So we see that we're getting good desirability scores for this next iteration also, but it's kind of found a plateau. We take one more iteration and see that it is replicating the best run seen in the training set. So that means that JMP can't find significant improvement over what it's seen in the training set. We would usually go for another iteration to confirm the results once again, but seeing replication like this is a sign that we may be done with this project if we like the response settings that we're seeing. Here is another run of the platform, this time using only one run per batch. We solved the problem in 13 runs both ways, and both of these are faster than the 21 runs in the original sample data. I will point out that even with the same batch size, you're not guaranteed to solve the problem in the same number of runs because of the sensitivity to starting conditions and the random variation in the responses. Now, one of the many great things about Bayesian optimization in JMP Pro is that it is in JMP, so it's one part of a much greater data analysis ecosystem. We can use Bayesian optimization to find the optimal production settings, but at that point, a next step would be to find the region of the factor space that the factors can vary in while still controlling the probability of making production units that are out of specification. We can do this by going into the augment capability in the JMP DOE platforms, and this will fill in the knowledge gaps. Then we can analyze the new and old data together in the fit model platform, and we can use the design space profiler to find a robust operating region with specifications for the input variables. We load the data from before, choose a response surface model, and ask for 4 more runs, leading to 17 runs in total. The new augmented runs make the Bayesian optimization data suitable for a classical statistical model by filling in the extremes of the factor space. We bring up the fit model least squares analysis and choose design space profiler. We set the ranges to be tight around the optimal run from the Bayesian optimization phase and observe that with tight factor specifications, we can predict that 100% of the units will be in spec. From that starting point, we can widen the factor ranges by clicking the Move Outward button to find an operating region that keeps us in specification 95% of the time. So it's really powerful to combine JMP Bayesian optimization with other tools that you're already familiar with. So I'm going to show another example to demonstrate how the platform works on data that's a little bit more sophisticated than that first toy problem. While at the same time, I want to show off how Bayesian optimization can be used in partnership with other capabilities in JMP Pro, such as FDE's new baseline correction and peak modeling capabilities. So with this example, it's another chromatographic example where we have a retention time that we want to minimize, and we want to maximize 8 peak resolutions, making a purification process fast, reliable, and safe. So this example has 9 responses with 5 factors we can change to solve for settings that will give you the best purification process. So first, we use SNP to remove the baseline from the spectra. Then we go into the peak modeling tool in Functional Data Explorer and save out the retention time of the 3rd peak, as well as the resolutions between adjacent peaks. We have 9 responses. The first one we want to minimize, and we want to maximize the rest. At that point, we can start using the Bayesian optimization platform. It finds that 4 of the 9 responses are not fitting well. So it recommends a space-filling pair of runs to improve model fit. We get responses for those runs and see that the model is looking good and that one of the new responses is much better than the initial runs. And we get into the auto mode phase where we're using expected improvement to automatically guide our search using the models to find the best settings. We go through a couple iterations of this. Until the platform begins replicating on iteration 5, indicating that we've possibly solved our problem. To determine if we're satisfied to stop at this point, we can use the profilers in the platform to show how well we are doing on all the individual responses at the best settings. We see that we are below the upper specification limit for the retention time, RT03, and above the lower specification limits for the resolution metrics. So the results look good. This was a much more complicated example with 5 factors and 9 responses, yet we were able to find optimal settings using only 14 runs, which I think is really remarkable. So now you've seen how easy the Bayesian optimization platform is to use and how it efficiently guides to the settings that solve your product or process requirements. It's quite flexible in data set and batch size. There's a lot more flexibility that I can show here today as well to customize the optimization process using subject matter knowledge and complex constraints on your search as well. We're really excited about the opportunities it will create for our customers to quickly solve problems the way that they want to, without having to learn and apply a lot of statistical analysis concepts before they can even get started. So JMP 19 and JMP 19 Pro are really one of the most exciting, impactful, and paradigm-shifting releases ever that I've seen in my almost 25 years here. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your questions here and at the social coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chris. We do have a little bit of time for 1 or 2 questions. If there's anyone who wants to know a little bit more about Bayesian optimization or the causal treatment platform. Anyone? No? Well, Chris, tell us if you had to pick sort of one area for someone to get started, if they wanted a first try at a Bayesian optimization problem, what kind of problem would be the most appropriate one to get started with?
I think that the area of like product formulation, like chemical formulation or pharmaceutical formulation, that's where the most interest has kind of come from, and there's the biggest gains to be made because working with mixtures and designed experiments is like very complicated, and this makes working with mixtures and complicated constraints so much more easy and transparent. With this framework, there's no difference between a formulation problem and a standard DOE. So it's really, the gains are biggest there.
Very good. I'm certain that you're going to be cornered at the networking party after this. So let's give Chris one more thanks.
Yes. Thank you.